The views and opinions expressed on the Craig L. Hayes Show are not necessarily those of Westgate Resorts ownership or management. And now, on with the show.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for episode 2 with Tom Porter. And he's been telling us a little bit about his life and experience working here in Las Vegas and other places around the country. And I'm finding it very interesting and some of the stuff he's done. I'm looking forward to hearing some more about it. So, Tom, go ahead and take away and continue telling us some more about your experiences working in the field of video production and
projection,
et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Well, we're up to the point now where the projection's starting to get interesting. We're starting to. We got on a show once where the client had hired a company out of L.A. to come up here and use the projection system. We use our video system to feed the projectors. And this was back when I was freelancing. When I started freelancing again, the management changed it to Greyhound, so I went back to working for them, not full time, but as a freelancer. But I was spending most of my time working with them and as an engineer. So an engineer builds the system on the show site, and then usually shades the camera during the show, and supervises the technical installation of the cables and the cameras and all that stuff. So projection was becoming a part of the convention business, and these PJ 5050 projectors that I mentioned earlier were becoming more popular. So TAV, Trans-American Video at the time, had bought or acquired some old versions of tube versions. They were actually tubes. And they had a class on them. So I went to the class, and I learned the basics. Now, nobody was using those tube versions anymore, but the electronic versions set up the same as the tube versions. There's a whole setup procedure you have to go through on these flat fielding and color balancing and everything. So I learned that, and then I ran across a guy from, he owned World Stage out of Los Angeles. His name was Rich Klein. And he had started this video projection company. So all he did was video projection. And he found out I had gone to this class, and he needed somebody in Las Vegas because more of his work was starting to be in Las Vegas. He didn't want to send his people up here. He wanted somebody in town that could do it, a freelancer. I kind of fit the bill because I had engineering background and everything. So he gave me some more training and put me on some jobs, and I started growing rapidly, and I started doing more video projection at that point. And I would start traveling around the country doing projection on his shows. Well, I was doing engineering in town, so as a freelancer, you get to choose where you work. So I grabbed everything. I liked projection because there were so few people in it. It was a niche. And I was always looking for a niche where I could get something nobody else could do. Well, it turns out Rich had he acquired these 10 Itafor projectors. And I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They were the huge projectors in that time. They cost $500,000 each. They were made in Switzerland. And he had found them in Mexico. Televisa had 10 of these in a warehouse and didn't really know what to do with them. And he made a deal with them that he would put them out on the road here in the United States and give them a piece of the action. And so he had a tour coming up, and he needed operators because he only had like 2 guys on staff. And so he needed operators to do it, and he trained me and Scott Chase. Do you know Scott?
I've heard the name. I don't think I've ever worked with him.
Yeah, he trained us, and we were going to do the tour coming up. Well, the tour was Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, nice.
My favorite all-time singing group, second favorites. Mamas and Papas is my favorite.
Okay.
Simon and Garfunkel were right up there. I jumped it. I said, please let me go. And he did. They took me down to L.A. and trained me some more because I was going to be totally on my own on this. And I did 12 shows. Scott did 6. And I loved it. And the thing that really hit me, when we did Pittsburgh, I was from Steubenville, 40 miles away. And I took my cousin up there with me to see the show. And he was a musician. He sounded just like Willie Nelson. And he was sitting there. We were doing rehearsals. We were sitting there. We were only two guys in the audience. And we were sitting right in front of the stage watching Simon Garfunkel rehearse. He looked at me and says, "You have the greatest job in the world."
Showbiz, it is.
Yeah. And you know something that hit me? He says, "You're right." I mean, there's the greatest thing. And that was just starting back then. And that really lit a fire under me. And it just kept going from there. And we started traveling all over the place with these Itaphors. Funny, the last show we did was in Mexico City. The company was on the verge of going bankrupt. Rich had retired, and the employees took it over. But the Itaphors were dying because they couldn't do the high resolution coming out in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
We were coming out with double scans now, 31.5 instead of 15.750. And Itaphor couldn't do that because it was the same system as the GEs. It was wrote on a mirror that was coated in oil, and that mirror would the beam would dimple the oil, and that would be just like scanning a TV screen, and then that would send the signal out. And it had 3 guns on it, red, green, and blue, obviously. So, but they became obsolete because they couldn't do the high def, and they just faded away. And after that, we went to Barco's and all the big stuff they got out now. Now it's all going to video wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we have here. I shouldn't say we. I'm not here anymore. But here at the hotel, they have video walls.
Yeah.
Everywhere. When you walk through the sports book, you saw that's all now all video wall. It's huge. It's a 150 feet long, 30 feet high video wall.
Mm-hmm. Well, how have you been here quite a while, haven't you?
I did 30 years here.
There used to be an Itaphor in the sports book. Big screen in the sports book.
Well, I believe it, yeah.
That was an Itaphor. I don't know if you ever saw it. And there was one in Mirage. They had one. They were the first hotels to actually get them. They're very high maintenance. You have to have a technician on it all the time. They have a thing called a cathode. Each gun's got its own cathode. It lasts about 30 hours, and you have to change it.
Mm.
And so there's 3, and they're $200 a piece, so that's $600 every 30 hours. You got to change these things. But the guy's got to be there to do it. So it was very high maintenance. That's why but it was just an amazing projector. It weighed about 2,000 pounds. Had a rectifier that you always put on the ground because it was just big, huge transformers. You don't want to lift them up on a scaffold.
No.
But the rest of it we'd put on the scaffold and electronics and the chassis. So it was it just was a great time. I really enjoyed that. Got to see so many different shows, so many different things. We did a fight. Almost all the fights had Itaphors on them.
Oh, okay.
We'd put them on a scissors lift. And it was funny because I had one of the fights, I think it was a Hearns Hagler fight. I was on a lift, and the lift was sinking. It would leak. And it kept going down, and we'd have to turn the lift on, crank it back up, and the picture would bounce back up and down. God, that was funny. But we'd usually have 4. They put 4 screens up there, 4 Itaphors up.
Wow.
I can't remember what they rented like $5,000 a day or something. It's amazing.
And we're talking what year?
This was mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s.
Yeah, Itaphors ended about 89.
5,000 was some serious money then.
Seriously, more.
Yeah.
And 4 of them. One of the other interesting things that came out, Billy Graham brought out, he found this laser video projector in England. And he imported a couple of them and made a deal with the company. Billy was always making deals. And they brought one of their technicians over, and they would train us on how to operate these laser projectors. Well, they had blue and green down pretty easy, but red they had to go through a dye laser to make red. They couldn't make red in those days, and very unstable. Interesting about these projectors, they were in infinite focus. You could focus on something. The projected image would be focused on an image 2 feet away or 50 feet away. It would be on instant focus. And so you could have screens in different depths and do all kind of creative stuff on it. And but they never get them quite bright enough. They were never as bright as a PJ, and because the PJs had continually increased their brightness as they aged, as they got older, as the technology developed. And they never got close to an iophore. So they lasted for quite a while, but Billy couldn't. They couldn't keep them going. The problem was the English company was so afraid of losing, having somebody copy their technology, that they wouldn't give us the information we needed to. I was on a show in New Orleans, and the vertical started jittering, and I did the best I could. I couldn't find out what was causing it. Well, it turned out when I finally got back to the shop, it was a little pot you turn, a potentiometer, and that would stabilize it. It was a mirror that was bouncing, but they wouldn't tell us that ahead of time because they were afraid of losing the knowledge. So Billy sat down and says, "We got to know everything because we can't go out on a show and crash and burn like they had to." Billy had to rent a PJ to go in there and replace this thing. So.
I guess they didn't have copyright stuff or patent stuff or what.
Well, they had patents, but they were afraid of, because of technology, they were the only ones that had these laser projectors. They were afraid of somebody copying it.
Wow.
But you had to have water going to them, fairly high pressure water. First time we did a show with it, Billy used garden hoses, and the hose going through the kitchen, somebody stepped on the hose, shut down the laser. So we learned the hard way. You had to get big, heavy hoses that you could run a truck over, and they still wouldn't shut down.
Yeah.
And it took 100 amps of three-phase power.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, the iophore took that too.
That's a lot of juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that, I got into about 1990. I started getting more into directing. They would combine the show. They would combine the position of the engineer and the director. The employer had, after they set it up, it'd be a small show. They have a small switch. Well, you can just switch that show and then you reach over and turn the camera. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well.
All right.
Should have been two jobs, but the camera was the shading cameras is. If the lighting doesn't change and everything, there's really nothing to do. So we kind of went along with it. So I ended up doing more directing. And then as the shows got bigger and I did more directing and had another engineer come in. So the last 10 years I was doing more directing, and then faded out to see what 09. 09 is when I retired.
Good for you. Took me a little longer.
Yeah. Well, I'm 79 years old, so I spent most of my career in it.
Yeah. So video so you really saw, here's two things I've been thinking about. First is you were smart enough to see what needed. You looked into the future far enough. You see what was coming, and you got into a class on these projectors. You got your CDL. So that you were standing there going, I'm ready.
Yeah.
That's,
true.
Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't sit there and look out and kind of look around, but you had the forethought and could see it, the vision of what needed to be done. You could see it was coming, and you made yourself valuable. That is such a huge lesson for kids coming up, just kids growing up, period. What's coming up? Not what you're doing today, not what you're going to be playing with tomorrow, but what's going to happen here in a month or 6 months. What are you doing to prepare yourself for that?
Mm-hmm.
You did that. That class on the class you took, and standing here going, well, I've got the class. I've already been there. How about using me?
Right.
And they were ready to use you that fast.
Well, I've actually grabbed every class I could get. I went to almost every Sony school. They had Sony cameras, Sony tape machines. Greyhound would send me to those schools, and I told them I had to go there, so I learned equipment.
Yeah.
But they sent me to school, and I just ate it up. I took every class I could get.
See, nothing wrong with that. Pack in your head everything you can, and delete the stuff that's old, because now the old technology it's gone by the wayside. Like you say, everything's video walls now. I mean, I've seen projectors here and there, but it's not like it used to be.
No, nowhere near it.
Everybody wants a video wall because you want that 4K,
Yeah.
zero LD spacing. You want that super clear stuff like we have. Barry Manilow has huge video walls up there, and
Mhm.
the hotel has our own video wall for shows that we just fly in. We use whenever they have video content they want to put it behind them. Very rarely do. Here's how the industry has changed, even stuff in the stage. We don't fly people's banners anymore.
Hmm.
In the last probably 10 years being here, a couple banners were flown. A lot of it's video wall now stuff.
Really?
They put their logo and stuff on a video wall. See?
Yeah.
It's just transferred right into the showrooms to be used and to do this.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. My wife is building a lot of the video walls in town now. She's very good at it
Good.
in the business.
I'll call you up when they need a repair job here. Yeah. And then the other thing was, you started working in convention areas. In what year? You said it, but I forgot the year.
I went to Greyhound in '76,
76.
and they were just starting to do conventions then, and it just grew from there.
The convention center next door to us here, it was a pretty big one. But now,
Yeah.
what's it now? 4 million square feet, 5 million. Back then it was what, 300,000 or something like that. Now it's 3-4 million.
Mm.
I mean, they buy hotels and knock them down just to put a convention center.
Right.
Landmark's gone, Riviera's gone. Another 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 square feet of convention space pops up.
Well, I remember back in those days that the hotels didn't like conventions because those people wouldn't gamble as much as somebody else. And we were actually fighting that problem. I remember the upper echelon of Greyhound was talking with the hotels a lot, trying to convince them to get more convention space. And
I remember the Sahara Space Center.
oh yeah,
Now, you had the convention center here, Las Vegas Convention Center. The Sahara Space Center was a private convention
Right.
built by Del Webb because they saw that they were going to do conventions.
Right.
It was 40,000. It was the biggest private convention center in town.
Mm-hmm.
40,000 square feet. That's a small meeting room now.
Yeah, exactly. I remember going in there. Boy, this place is really. We did a telethon in there once.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis did his telethons there quite a few
That's
years.
right.
Yeah. But that was considered a big room back when it was first built.
Yeah.
Space Center.
Yeah.
Now you got Mandalay Bay that goes out and builds a 2 million square foot convention center on their back lot, basically, and they're talking about building another one across the street across Russell,
Yeah.
building another one just like it. And I was like,
Yeah. And we're still filling them up.
yeah.
I mean, this place has expanded the convention center here is expanding so much.
It just, and you've seen it because you've been, I go by them and stuff, and I see they're building another bunch of space, but I don't go in there and work.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it a few times. I never enjoyed it. Like I said before, I've always enjoyed showrooms, but man, I'm telling you, you think, when do they reach the limit where we've built too much convention space?
Not yet.
Obviously not yet,
Not yet.
because they're still building more and more and more, and people keep coming and filling them up.
Mm-hmm.
So
I did get a little showroom experience. I got to work David Copperfield, and I would fill in for. They had a little 1040 Sony video projector. He'd wheel out and show a video of him and who was? Gosh, can't think of his name.
is he a magician or something?
No, he was an old time actor. That Orson Welles.
Orson? Oh wow.
Yeah, he would show a video clip of Orson Welles, and he would interact with the card trick. I never did forget how he did that one. How he got Orson Welles to do all that. So, but it was a black and white. But yeah, I worked that, and I remember one time I was. My projection run was ending, and I said, "What?" The guy running the rail said, "Hey, one of our guys is taking vacation for a week. You want to run the rail?" I've never run a rail in my life. I don't know anything about it.
Was this over at Caesars?
This is at Caesars.
Oh, wow. You got to work in that room. That's awesome.
Angelo.
And General Molinaro.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one of the guys was taking a vacation, and he says, "You can work the rail." I said, "I don't know anything about it." He says, "Just only got 2 cues." Sounds perfect.
Pull this rope, the piece comes in, pull this, it goes out.
Yep. Well, I rehearsed this about 10 times. I mean,
Good. That was
finally
smart.
they said, "We got to start the show. You got to quit rehearsing." And I made it, but I was scared shitless. I really was, just because so I didn't want to screw up the show.
Yeah.
That's the paramount thing in my head is do not screw up the show, no matter what happens. I don't, because the old saying in this town, what is it? You'll never work in this town again if you
Yeah.
screw it up. Sometimes it's true.
Yeah.
At least for that employer.
Sometimes your rep gets out there and no one wants to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, at one time they had we were doing a show here at the Hilton, had a PJ on a scaffold in a convention area, and somebody come by going to the scissors lift, drove the scissors lift through the drape line, caught the drape line, and we had a dowser on the PJ in the front of it as a paddle sticking up like this. Well, the drape line caught the dowser, flipped the PJ off and crashed it on the floor.
Oh.
So the guys come in and says, "Oh, well, we got to do this, and we got to fix this, and we'll bring another PJ in. Hey, Tom, why don't you stand down there and we'll take your picture beside the PJ?" I said, "Not in a million
No
years will
way."
I ever be associated with a PJ laying upside down on the floor."
Yeah. And the caption, oops,
Yeah, not me, bud.
that'd be all over the
I wasn't even in a
place.
room when it happened, and I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'll pass on that one. That's for sure. No, so you got to work in a showroom. That's awesome. And in that showroom there at the Caesar's Palace, what a room that was. I loved working show changes, and I've done shows over there too. I ran spot. I've done all kinds of stuff over there. Because like typical stagehands, none of us have one job.
No,
We have the one that we work,
most of the time.
most of the time, and then we have the ones we would do extra. And show changes were always the big ones.
Yeah.
Do your full-time gig at some hotel that you're working, and then when it was over, you'd go across the street or you'd go down the street and go do a show change for 5 hours or 7 or 8 or whatever it was. That was my life, and conventions. I know there's not a whole lot of difference there either.
Yeah, I used to work some audio. The only thing I never got to work much was lighting. Just never got into the lighting. Didn't have any background for it other than I could use a foot candle meter and know what my lights were. But as far as setting it up or running board or anything, I didn't have any background in it, so I didn't do it. But I got to work audio quite a bit.
Yeah, it's the audio world. That's where I was at.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the audio world, and I became head carpenter here at this hotel in 1994, and was that until I retired 3 months ago.
Right.
So,
It's been a hell of a career, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
what a way to make a living. I never thought I'd be doing this. Never could I imagine this.
yeah.
It's really something.
Well, why don't we end this episode here, and then we come back. Maybe we'll talk about some of the big shows you got to do, and you've talked about a lot of technology. You've talked about the changes and the stuff that's going on, and any stories that you have from we did this, and all of a sudden, this doesn't work, or this, it happens in every show, every convention, everything I've ever been around. Something is going to go wrong. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's the recovery, getting out of that and back into the show is what happens. But anyway, that's what I'd like to go into next on the next episode. And until then,
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.